Welcome back to India Chooses. Before the break, we were talking about elections in Karnataka. Now we're going to talk about the national scene. My first question to Siddharth Singh of the BJP. We know that likely gains for the BJP are going to be in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Gujarat. You're likely to hold on to states like Karnataka, maybe Maharashtra as well. But you accept you have a problem. One in Rajasthan, you got 21 out of 24 in 2004. Also in Madhya Pradesh, you got 25 out of 29 in the last election. The problem being the challenge to replicate that success. It's going to be difficult to notch up similar numbers once again this time round.
In Rajasthan, I would admit that there has been a problem after this. The assembly had given, but after that we have done quite substantially. There are certain things which had to be taken organizationally. We have done in the time of selection of candidates. We have done. So let the phase come. It is yet to come.
You're doing your best, but my question was simple. That it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a challenge for the BJP to replicate the numbers of the last time round.
Sorry. 2004, in this phase, that's the third phase, NDA per se got 44 out of 107. That is 41 was to BJP and 3 were to NDA. Now the increases were, one, I'm very happy that you have admitted that we are going to hold on to Madhya Pradesh and couple of so Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh you have said. So keeping that there. Gujarat definitely I'm going up.
We don't have an opinion poll, by the way.
Well, I'm just admitting to it. Yes, Gujarat we are definitely going up. UP we are doing fantastically well.
From 14, what is the figure you're looking at? Because that
well, I won't really go into numbers, but let's say we will be in the 20s. We won't be anything below that. And if I take UP we were just 2, and I do look at some increase in UP, and there are, seat wise I can go into detail. Bihar we were hardly anything. We were, if I am not wrong, we were 3 in Bihar, and this time you know what is happening in Bihar. There is a Nitish wave. Let's be honest. I must admit it's my NDA. That is Nitish who is leading along with the BJP, but it's going. We are getting a lot of advantage.
But you don't know whether Nitish will stay with you or not.
Well, that's a media, and it's a good tale for the news and all that. But we know where Nitish stands and how strong we are as an NDA. We can go into debate, but that's I don't think we are sitting in NewsX. We are not doing the NDTV agenda, which is Barkha's agenda. That's a separate agenda.
Okay, Siddharth. Let's go across to Virappa Moily here. Mr. Moily, you've heard Siddharth Singh talking about the fact, and everybody has of course been talking that this phase was very, very important for the BJP. Where Karnataka, which is a state you understand very well, is concerned, and Madhya Pradesh, another state where you have just 4 seats, what are the kind of gains that you're looking at?
Where is NDA or BJP in the south, except in Karnataka. Karnataka, there is I already told you that, the anti-incumbents is very high against Mr. Yadurappa. His government promised 24 hours of electricity, not even 3 hours they could provide for it. They provided, they said, they provide, 1,500 rupees per month to all the unemployed.
Mr. Moily, we've talked about Karnataka. Let's talk a little bit about Madhya Pradesh and Bihar. What are the kind of figures you're looking at over there? What is the kind of increase that you're looking there?
No, because, I know Madhya Pradesh because, last assembly election, I was in charge of selection as a screening committee chairman. I know that last time we lost because of the some management in between, but this time, and there the anti-incumbency was there against Shivraj Singh Chauhan, but this time, it will definitely high on against the present government. We will definitely improve our tally. It will be definitely not less than 12 or 13 this time. And same thing, Chhattisgarh is concerned, we are going to improve the tally. And Karnataka is concerned, we were 9, but we will definitely come around more than 15 seats. Because there is youth is against them, women are against them. And where do they get the votes? That too in a broad picture in the whole country is Mr. Vajpayee, who is supposed to be the liberal face of BJP is out and he is not in the pitch center state. And Mr. George Fernandes, who is again a liberal face, he is no more he was the convener of the NDA.
But Mr. Moily, would you admit that the JDU is going to cost you in Bihar?
No, Bihar we are definitely going to improve. We are going to occupy more space, and we are definitely going to be more than 10.
All right, we've talked about the projections as
gained,
far as
and
the
our UPA
BJP and the
partners also,
Congress is
other partners
concerned.
will
Let's also get the left in the third front into this. Mr. Nilotpal Basu, the crucial states for the left in the third front, of course, are West Bengal, Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. How many seats do you believe that, the third front will need in order to pitch itself for power with Congress support?
I think you have made quite a few assumptions. One is the third front itself. Now it's
You were saying it.
it's a nomenclature that the media has attributed to us. We have not yet formed the front. We are in the process, and we believe that many more parties will join in. And after the elections, we will form the front, and we will have a common minimum program.
But it will be the third front or not?
Number two, we are confident that we can put in place a non-Congress secular government and to pursue that kind of a program.
Yeah, but Mr. Basu, my question is, how many seats do you believe this third force is going to require in order to force the Congress to give you support rather than you giving the Congress support from outside?
The point is, we will get sufficient seats in which...
how many do you think is required to have a serious bid for power?
No. You see, you cannot pre-decide like that, depending on who all are coming. Because
what do you think, Mr.
Because both the two parties, Congress and BJP, if you see in terms of vote share and in terms of seat share, it is going to come down.
Mr. Basu, let's stop.
I believe the discussion, as soon as you toss figures and numbers to the BJP or the Congress or the left, they will say, Mr. Moily will say, we are willing, thumping victory in. He will say that he's coming up trumps. I personally think that is the wrong way to start a debate at this point. I believe that there are certain general observations one should be able to make. I believe that in Congress party, infighting is very, very apparent. Infighting in Madhya Pradesh, you have 5 or 6 leaders not seeing eye to eye. You have all these heavyweights in Karnataka. As I was asking Mr. Moily, that S.M. Krishna is one of the most able leaders they have, and he has no role because Margaret Alba and Oscar Fernandez are the big shots.
Right.
That's one. BJP, on the other hand, has confused matters by projecting suddenly while Mr. Advani is carrying on, they have come and produced Modi as an alternative and a possible prime ministerial candidate. They don't have any issues. They touch Hindutva, then they get back. They say the Article 370, then they pull
Mr.
back.
Basu has to go, so I want to just get in a couple of questions on West Bengal. We're talking about, we'll come back to that, Siddharth. We're talking about the figures.
Just add one. A question to him and a question to him. Why is the voting percentage in Gujarat 45% and in the 40s, and why is it in West Bengal in the 70s and possibly even the 80s from what I hear? How do you explain it, you and you, sir?
So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the fact that what seats you get in West Bengal will determine to a very great extent this non-Congress front, that your secular front that you are talking about. Would you admit that for the first time in over 3 decades, things are looking tough for you? The fact that Trinamool and Congress is using your agenda and you're actually appealing to the urban voter and talking about industrialization instead of appealing to the peasants is going to damage you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely, you have got it wrong again. You have got it wrong earlier also, now also you have got it wrong. Because rural poor continues to be the basic support base that we have in a situation where 83 to 84% of the total land is owned by small and marginal farmers, and because of the vigorous campaign left continues with, whatever little land we are talking of for conversion, for development of industry, we are actually redistributing more land than we are talking of taking over for conversion into industry. So it's a wrong premise that we are not addressing the rural poor. But at the same time, we are trying to also expand, because the question of employment is a very important question both in the rural and urban areas.
Trinamool
Trinamool
hijacking
and
your agenda,
Trinamool was
that
part
could be
of
the difference.
Congress. Earlier, Trinamool was part of Congress. We have always, because you see, Congress is a strong force. Congress was a strong force. Always they had around 40% votes, and each election brings in new challenges, and we are saying that West Bengal is a politically aware state, and the conditions under which Congress has allied with Trinamool and the kind of seat sharing they had, we are very confident that at the grassroots level they have not been able to justify this politically to the people of West Bengal, that this is not opportunism.
All right.
And this is meant.
May I
Okay, I'll have to interrupt over here. I'll tell you why. We've completely run out of time in this section. I want to just end with our psephologist Jay Mrogda, because we were talking about projections earlier. And Jay, I want to ask you about certain projections about all three fronts over here, because there's a BJP leader who told me last week that he believes the BJP would require to be the single largest party, as well as to be 30 seats ahead to be able to have a realistic chance of forming a government. Also, what about the third front? What do you believe, how many seats do you believe that they will require in order to have a realistic chance of, pitching for a government supported maybe by the Congress? What is your analysis over here, Jay?
Well, today's turnout figures as they are coming, certainly from Gujarat, MP, and the sort of new mobilization that we are seeing in UP, they have helped the BJP-led front, the NDA, to narrow the gap with the UPA. So the gap between the UPA and NDA is now not as big as 50 or 60 seats as it was initially thought it would to be. It would perhaps narrow to a gap of 20 odd seats, with both the fronts closing somewhere within the vicinity of 200. So 180 to 200 for both the fronts is what we're looking at. For the third front, of course, if we put together the tally of the Mahakutumi in Andhra, the parties in Tamil Nadu that are part of the third front, and whatever the Biju Janata Dal expects to poll, certainly they are looking to at least as of now close between about 110 to 130.
Okay, before we close, Joshua, we must let Siddharth ask his question to Nilotpal Basu, because he has to leave.
He said that Congress and Trinamool, they are same, So you had joined hands with Congress or supported Congress. Will you be in future doing with that Trinamool Congress? Because it's an interesting observation you made about Trinamool and Congress. And second is, you have spoken a lot about the rural farmers and the farm. There is a distress in West Bengal. You are an expert. I'm not an expert,
I'm not an expert.
But just
a
the Nandigram and Singhvi which happened, it was basically on the wrong policies of West Bengal government in picking up the land. So why this kind of when you tom about the rural development and rural schemes for the farmers in West Bengal, and you compare Congress and Trinamool, if you could enlighten us.
Singhvi and Nandigram are two different cases. And I agree with you that this is the national elections. Normally we should be talking about the national policies. But since you raised this question, I am very clear about this, that in Singhvi, 80% of the people whose land was going to be taken over did agree, and not only that, they accepted the check for selling of the land. It was plain, totally obstructionist policy of the Trinamool Congress, which led to this kind of a situation. You will see the results in the Singhvi area this time around. And so far as Nandigram was concerned, it's very, very unfortunate that situation of police firing. But there again, the police had resorted to firing in a situation where the police was going in just to restore law and order, not to grab land.
There was a government moving of the nano from West Bengal to Gujarat.
Let's not move on.
You don't regret that.
All right, we're running out of time. We've got to take a break.
Mamata Banerjee to Narendra Modi,
Would you?
about whom she is very, very
All right,
appreciative.
we'll have to see.
Possibly you can look
we'll have to wait and see who gains. Who gains?
Probably
But
the
would you?
Congress is moving towards your side.
All right, we still don't know who's moving towards whom, is it?
Sorry?
We still don't know who's moving towards whom in West Bengal.
That's exactly what I'm trying to understand. You know,
I
that's
tell you
an
what, Mr.
anxiety, you know,
Basu,
you've
we're in a
heard
big
three
hurry now to
presidents
take a
gone.
break, and I know
What is
you're in a
the
big hurry to go
mystery
as
that
well.
till they come
So let's
back?
put a pause button over here. Let's take a break. Mr. Nolotpal Basu, thanks very much for joining us. When we come back after this short break, we'll talk about the big issues of the last few days. We'll talk about Kothrochi, for example. We'll talk about LK Advani saying there should be fixed terms for the Lok Sabha as well as for assemblies. We'll talk about all of that in just a couple of minutes. Keep watching India.
And of course, since Siddharth is here, we have to talk about Narendra Modi as well. Welcome back, you're watching India Chooses. We're talking about the third phase, which had 107 constituencies. Well, the campaign this time has been more or less personality-centric.
Well, there's been a war of words between Manmohan Singh and LK Advani, and let's look at some of the key issues. In fact, we just pulled up a graphic plate for you over there. You can see in the last few days, last couple of weeks, these are some of the big issues that are supposed to be influencing the electorate. That is, we're going to find out whether, to what extent they actually are. But one, of course, is the state of the economy and the UPA government's response to it. Development, of course, BSP, Bijli Sadak Pani. The Supreme Court this week ordering a probe against Modi on the Gujarat riots, dropping of the Kothrochi red corner notice by the CBI, which has become a big issue the last few days as well. All right, well, we now also are pleased to have with us Paul Beckett. He's the Bureau Chief, South and Southeast Asia of the Wall Street Journal. He also joins us over here. Paul, let me begin and ask you, in the United States you have the Democrat Party, you have the Republicans. In the UK you have the Labour Party, the Liberals and the Conservatives. And all of them stand for a particular ideology. Over here you have parties which switch sides at the drop of a hat very often. How are you explaining and making sense of all of this for your readers out there in America and in the West?
As best we can, but it's an alphabet soup of
What's your
parties
take
and
on this
acronyms.
election? I mean, how are you, taking this whole mix and making it clear for them over there?
I think you try and look at issues that you were talking about, but I mean, the longer we get into this campaign, the fewer issues seem to be relevant. So you can try and thread some synthesis through it and show that there are bigger
Like what issues do you think have become big and relevant now?
What's the role of youth in this election? How do two almost octogenarian leaders connect with a country where 40% of the population is under 25? What do you do with a country that is a huge stimulant potentially to the global economy? How do you get India to be the driver that pulls the whole of the world out of its recession? And you never hear anything of it here, so you basically have to figure out
all
for
the
yourself.
issues you're talking about are issues we've not been discussing at all, and nor have we heard the politicians discuss them.
I think that there are issues that are relevant to the election. I think it's something that you have to look at.
All right, let's go across now to Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, who now joins us. Thank you so much for talking to NewsX. Dr. Singhvi, we've been talking a lot about the fact that voter apathy that we've seen in urban centers. Why are we seeing, and one of the reasons that's being given is the fact that we've neglected grassroots realities, ground realities of the fact that there is this scorching heat, that the fact that there have been holidays, and perhaps that should also have been taken into cognizance. Do you agree?
I think the larger picture is being missed in this entire debate. I think we have nowhere, in no state or no part of India or no phase of the elections, have we reached a stage where the voter turnout is so low as to be alarming or dangerous or actually a negation of democracy. You've had your late 40s, early 50 figures. Remember, a lot of these figures taken on the same day as the election are not correct. They are adjusted later on. These are only very broad averages. Secondly, the weather, as you said, does play a role. Thirdly, you may have, you have to take the overall average as well. Mumbai may have somewhat lower, Northeast may have very much higher. If you take the all India average at the end of the 5 phases of election, I can tell you that India remains a vibrant democracy on an overall average.
Right.
Now, yes, in phases, in individual states, different reasons matter.
Right.
In an urban environment, there will be more apathy and less turnout. In a rural environment, there will be more. In the day, in the weather, in the scorching heat, all these are local factors. But you should be happy that the overall India average is healthy, and I don't think anywhere can you say this alarmingly low.
All right, Dr. Singhvi, from voter turnout, let's talk about issues now. Now, one of the big issues that's crept up in the last few days is Mr. Q, Mr. Kothrochi. My question to you is, why in a hurry? Why was the CBI in such a hurry to withdraw this red corner notice to him, which is what the opposition is saying, despite the fact that you knew or you should have known there was a risk that it would harm the Congress party in the ongoing election process?
Actually, this is just a timing issue raised by the press. If you look at the facts carefully, and it's very difficult unless you give me at least a minute full to understand, nothing has happened. In October, what is today happening, which didn't really happen, but the press carried an expose, is the consequential action of the CBI proposing, not deciding, proposing to drop the red corner notice on the ground that the main case against Kothrochi has been thrown out 6 times. So the CBI asked a question that an opinion of an AG says that when the main case is not pending, how can you have a red corner notice pending? Now the 6 times the case was thrown out, 4 times by a court in Malaysia from 2001 to 2004, entirely during NDA regime, with the law minister monitoring it personally. 2 times in Argentina on the same reason by the same CBI during our regime on the ground that no evidence existed. Twice the Delhi High Court has said so, and the NDA, during the NDA time the judgment came on 2nd February 2004, not appealed for 90 days by the NDA.
Okay.
Now on those facts the question put, and the AG's opinion says so, when the main case has been found to be without evidence by 6 courts or 7 courts in different parts of the world, how, on what basis will you continue?
Dr. Singhvi, I'll tell you what, you talked about the NDA. Siddharth Nath Singh of the BJP is over here in the studio with us, and he wants to ask you a counter question on this. Go ahead, Siddharth.
Mr. Singhvi has raised when NDA was in power, he referred to February 2004. There was an SLP to be given to the High Court on this matter. Since the elections were on, we decided we'll do it, and the time was till June 2004. Mr. Singhvi is forgetting that there was a noting by the CBI also, which was contrary to what, which they said the SLP should be, made in the High Court in 2004. But when the UPA came, they went on contrary. Coming on the second one, which is the latest, what they have done, the timing which they have done. I'm not really concerned with the timing, but the timing what the Kothrochi timing has done to Congress is, they were trying in this election to bring the Gandhi family back into the center stage. Unfortunately, Kothrochi has crashed them.
But Siddharth,
on the timing, so that's what exactly what has happened to them.
agree that in all your time as well, you were not able to get a shred of evidence to be able to bring him here.
I think a lot has come out in the newspapers. What has happened when the VP Singh government was there? A lot has been spoken about when the NDA was there. It's all what has happened against Kothrochi is during the NDA and the VP Singh government. They have made the defreezing of the accounts. They managed to do.
I just want to get a quick reaction from Mr. Naqvi. How much you think this issue is really benefiting the BJP right now? I mean, do you think people really care about a case that happened 22 years ago rather than present day pressing issues? What is your view on this?
I think it is a completely nonsensical talking point which has been resurrected out of nowhere. Because we are short of issues. I think our colleague here is absolutely dead right. We should be talking about the role of youth in elections. We should be talking about octogenarian leadership. We should be talking about how do we bridge this gap.
Mr. Naqvi, I'm going to interrupt you because Abhishek Manu Singhvi wants to respond to this. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, respond to Siddharth Nath Singh's point that this is just a gambit for you to make sure that the Gandhi family is very much center stage.
See, as I told you, if you run away from the facts, you can't get anywhere in a debate. A few corrections. The judgment of the Delhi High Court came on 2nd of February 2004. It was argued for several months before that during an NDA regime, personally monitored by the then Law Minister Mr. Jaitley and with the ASG appointed by the NDA arguing it. On 2nd February, the High Court passed strictures against the NDA government for even including Rajiv Gandhi's name as a dead person. Normally in such matters, appeals are filed in the Supreme Court within 5 days, 10 days, 20 days. 90 days expired in May. March, April, May, all within NDA time, no appeal was filed. When the UPA came to power, they said the appeal is already time barred, the NDA has not filed an appeal, we decide not to file an appeal. That's the story of Bofors of Delhi High Court. Now, about 10 of the last 22 years, remember, 10 of the last 22 years have been non-Congress governments. Many governments inimically opposed to the Congress. Many leaders who have built their careers on Bofors. In 10 of those 22 years, the NDA could not get one evidence against, of course, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi and Congress. But more than that, they could not hang Mr. Quattrochi from the nearest tree.
Well,
They lost 3.5 years in Malaysia.
They
in
always
four
there to
courts.
protect him.
I think the bottom line is, Dr. Singhvi and Siddharth, is that this debate can go on and on. But as Mr. Naqvi was saying over here, perhaps he thinks, in his view, of course, is not having too much votes and resonance. Siddharth, I'm telling you, I'm going to come back to you, Siddharth. Just give me a minute.
This issue should be buried.
It should
This
be buried.
when the next government comes. Please, for heaven's sake, conclusively.
Okay, what we
Yes,
do
sir,
have to do, of
eliminate
course,
this
is
issue.
bury it at least for the next couple of minutes, because I'll tell you what, we talked about Quattrochi. Let's talk about another big issue, this one, which of course Mr. Advani has raised today. The NDA's Prime Ministerial candidate, LK Advani, has proposed a fixed tenure for Lok Sabha and state assemblies.
Well, his comment just before he cast his vote has reopened this debate on the presidential form of government.
जैसे शुरू में फरवरी में ही सब चुनाव होते थे, वैसे ही अगर फरवरी में सब चुनाव हो, फिक्स टेन्योर हो असेंबलीज का, फिक्स टेन्योर हो लोकसभा का, तो यह अधिक से अधिक लोगों को चुनाव में भाग लेने का अवसर देगा। प्रशासन उसके कारण विपरीत रूप से प्रभावित नहीं होगा।
LK Advani threw this thought before the media just before casting his vote in Gandhinagar on Thursday. Many within the BJP came around to this thought when Atal Bihari Vajpayee stood as the party's tallest leader. The idea is not new to Indian politics. In the early 80s, when Indira Gandhi was at the helm, senior Congress leader Vasant Sati had campaigned for a presidential system of government. No wonder the Congress for once is not opposing Advani.
Various suggestions keep coming up from time to time. This is a suggestion that can only be brought about if there is a constitutional amendment. These are matters that keep coming up. The political parties will take a view on it as and when necessary.
On the face of it, the argument in favor is that it would lead to political stability and consistency in policy making. But there is another motive. In an era of coalition politics, both national parties have been arm twisted a bit too often by regional parties. A presidential form of government is seen by them as the best bet to ward off small players. It will also do away with various imponderables of electoral politics like caste, class, community and local aspirations. Advani's thought came as a follow-up of his invitation to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh for national debate on the lines of US presidential polls. While all of this is a matter of intellectual and political debate, such a change would mean altering the basic structure of the constitution. And that may not be an easy task. With Sanjay Singh in Gandhinagar, Bilal Zaidi, News X, Delhi.
Dr. Singhvi, a fixed tenure for the Lok Sabha. Let's get your reaction on this. And what is the impact going to be if we have something like that?
Firstly, there's no question of being per se opposed to any constructive suggestion. We can consider it. Of course, I have a problem that a lot of these suggestions which suddenly Mr. Advani and the BJP is coming up with, A, they were not even mentioned or done with when the NDA was in power, nothing to implement them. B, when they were in opposition, they were never seriously mooted in parliament. So I find it always a little suspicious when your timing is in the middle of a political campaign. Secondly, while the idea may be debatable and we can look into it, I find hundreds of details, nitty-gritty, and God and the devil both lie in the details Mr. Advani always misses out on. He doesn't tell you where you'll get a consensus even for an ordinary act of parliament, much less a constitutional amendment. He doesn't tell you that the entire system would have to be changed. It's not just one change of fixed election time. You'll be converting the whole concept of dissolution, of loss of majority in Lok Sabha into a fixed term. You'll have to synchronize elections across the country. An enormous amount of detailed, nitty-gritty hard work will have to go into it. I am certain that neither Mr. Advani nor the BJP have even begun that nitty-gritty hard work. When they've done their homework, yes, we'll consider it in detailed constructive spirit.
All right, Dr. Singhvi, you've made your point. Let's put this to the BJP now. Obviously, Siddharth, Mr. Advani has suggested this. Number one, because it brings stability to the political system, avoid frequent elections. Number two, reduce the cost of holding elections. But there are advantages people can argue with the present system as well. Number one, frequent polls means greater accountability. And number two, it keeps the government and MPs on their toes all the time.
I don't think so that, if you weigh both the merits and the demerits, I think the merits which Mr. Advani has given outweighs the demerits or something like that. But coming on Mr. Singhvi, and one, he said that it wasn't raised, and when we were in opposition, it was raised. He's got a short memory. I cannot blame him for that. But at the same time, he has said that during the election we raised issues. I think we do raise.
But Siddharth, the point about the ramifications of what is being proposed has not been talked about.
Let me complete. Just give me 30 seconds, please. He has said that Mr. Advani raised certain issues during the elections. They don't consider, that they are constructive. But let me tell, we did raise on the Swiss account thing, getting the loot money back to India. They didn't think it was proper. They gave a number of excuses, but fortunately, a week back, the Prime Minister himself admitted that, okay, within 100 days, I'm going to get the money. Now, I don't know whether they did the homework or not. We surely have done our homework, and that's when we raised down.
30 seconds are up. Let me just quickly go to Paul Beckett. Now, Paul, what do you think? Because, earlier you were talking about the whole confusion with political parties and all these many issues that this election is being plagued by. What do you think of Mr. Advani's suggestion? Do you think at least the political system might get some degree of clarity?
I have no idea what he's talking about. Absolutely no. A fixed term what? So you elect a really weak coalition. You manage to cobble together a really weak coalition.
No, which means a parliament and state assembly will have to have a 5-year term,
right.
which doesn't mean that the governments can't change, but the term of that parliament would remain 5 years.
I have a
You can't
strange
have an
feeling-
election more than once in 5 years.
I have a strange feeling that we are splitting hairs. Mr. Advani was feeling particularly hot today. Look, it'll be wonderful if we hold elections in February, and he's gone and raised a huge constitutional issue, which requires a whole lot of homework.
I can't
So
believe there are voters across the country tonight who are saying that there is an issue that I can really sink my teeth
Absolutely
into
not.
for this election, and that is going to make all the difference when I go to vote. I think it's.
All
I mean,
right,
you
we've
call it
debated
it's
another non-issue, haven't
presidential. It's
we?
not presidential at
Elections
all.
every
It's
year
nonsense.
has a bearing on number of economic policies also. Generally talking about, let's leave out the BJP or the Congress, any government who is in power, sometimes you have to take certain decisions which are harsh, but you cannot take it because of various reasons that it affects the voters, or but economically, from the economic point, they help. So it does, a fixed term does give you
have an
the
impact, okay.
flexibility.
I think the point he was trying to make was not so much about the efficacy of the issue, but more that it will not have too much electoral resonance. That's the point he was making.
If you go down, I think it will. So one should not ignore it.
All right.
It
All
is
right.
a debatable thing. We all should do. It's a constructive. If we all can come to a consensus, we should go for it.
All right, we're going to have to take a break at this point, but the fact remains that whether there should be a fixed tenure for the Lok Sabha or not in the state assemblies is not really going to be way top of the agenda for the next two phases. Anyway, I'd like to thank Paul, Syed Naqvi, Siddharth Nath Singh, and of course Abhishek Manu Singhvi for joining us for this debate. We're going to take a break. After that, Maha is going to be here, and Jujhar and Maha are going to continue the debate on what are the real issues this time around.
And besides these real issues, we'll also be focusing on Gujarat and also West Bengal. Keep watching India Chooses. We'll be back.